Hello, and welcome to episode 89 of Expertise is Overrated, the podcast that takes the time to answer the questions you didn't know you didn't want the answer to. I'm Sean.
And I'm Vib. And neither of us has any clue what we're talking about.
And neither did the absolute clowns that wrote the show we are about to fix.
That's a dead giveaway there, really. There's only one show we could possibly be talking about.
The Boys? I mean, that's gone a bit
Simpsons.
downhill. The Simpsons. I haven't watched The Simpsons in ages. Jimmy Kimmel? Too soon?
He fixed himself.
He did fix himself.
He did all right there.
The Acolyte?
I don't think
that's
that's savable. Neither of us has seen that, so...
That's how we fix it.
No, I'm reminded of our Star Wars watch-along, which, if you haven't caught that, come find it on Patreon. It's well worth it.
Come and find it on Patreon. I was also meaning to talk to you about making the Andor episode available for general release.
Of course you do, because you're such an Andor stan.
I love it so much!
No, we need to release more negative content into the world, right? Where we
that's what this podcast is lacking.
Yeah, where we hate on Anakin's storyline being a complete and utter disaster, much like what we're going to talk about today.
Storyline in Game of Thrones season 8. So this is actually quite timely because I don't know if you've noticed this, but the poster for A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms has dropped. We have a poster.
I'm underwhelmed. Not by the poster, but just that there is another.
You see, I think I'm whelmed. I think I'm sitting quite middle of the road whelmed because the books are really good.
Yeah, but okay. Well, actually, yeah, you've given us the perfect segue here. I mean, the books are really good, and I was actually going to argue with that by saying, well, A Song of Ice and Fire was really good.
Yeah, they were.
And the show that followed the books, A Song of Ice and Fire, were really good as well. So, or the episodes rather. So, yeah, you might have a point.
I think, yeah, it's a bit simplistic, but I mean, I really like the books. We've got new House of the Dragon coming, I think early next year as well, which is quite, depending on where you sit, either exciting or pants shittingly awful. But yeah, it's sort of, we're coming back to fixing the stupid, which is one of our many small series that sit inside our main podcast that we come back to when we run out of ideas of things to talk about.
I do want to do more of these, and I say that knowing full well that this one might actually be beyond us.
So I think we might. There's a lot of things that might be about to happen. We might just stall out. I think there's a real risk that we get about 15, 20 minutes in and we just stall because the problems are too big.
The thing is, right, because I think we're selling this as fixing the stupid Game of Thrones season 8. Realistically, we have to fix season
at least 7.
At least 7, but the problems start to rise in season 6, I think.
If you look at the heat map, the ratings heat map, I think you're right. I think, well, when was Battle of the Bastards? That's the first question.
Isn't that like the big episode of season 6?
That's season 6, episode 9.
Yeah.
But that was a peak in an otherwise, if you'll excuse the idiom, rather mid-series, I think.
Even that's got problems, but yeah, it was the right kind of shocking and spectacular, I think is, absolutely the right word,
Yeah, the challenge, I guess, is so that was season 6. So then the next episode was The King in the North. Oh no, it wasn't. It was The Winds of Winter.
I mean, season 7 is honestly one of those, I don't entirely recall what happens. Which I think says enough.
Season 7 is The White Hunt. Jon and his team go beyond the wall to capture a
so I actually did want to start with that. So I think the end of season 7 is, I mean, they've jumped so many sharks at that point, but the end of season 7 is a complete and utter departure from sanity for the show and everybody involved in it. Because the end of season 7, right, the hunt to try and convince Cersei that zombies are real is just how nobody involved this show, actors, writers, editors, cameramen, gophers, and everybody else, how nobody stood up and said, guys, this is fucking dumb, is a mystery to me.
I think you can actually pinpoint where it all goes horribly wrong, and there are a few places here and there where it nearly goes wrong, but then it rights itself. For example, with the Battle of the Bastards or what have you. But I think where it really falls apart is the season 6, when Cersei arranges for the destruction of Baelor's Sept.
Yeah.
And faces no consequences.
Yeah.
And everyone just goes along with it. And and then she's just in season 7, then she's just queen. And I don't understand, that wouldn't have worked in this earlier seasons. I don't think. No. I just don't think it would have done.
No. That's when the show has forgotten what it's all about. Right? The fact that actions have consequences, which is ultimately the entire thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have to be very fair to the show. And I think it's really important throughout this episode that we remain fair to the show. The visuals in that episode were spectacular. The score is fantastic. The way it's all framed, the cutting between Marjorie in the Sept and Cersei in the Red Keep, it's all brilliant, but it belongs in a different show.
Agreed. But even that part of it goes away in season 8.
Yes,
I will point to what might well be the worst episode of TV ever made, the Battle of Winterfell. In that it's just dark.
So, I think I don't know the extent to which I agree with you about that. I know you don't like that episode.
You can't disagree though.
I've seen it. I didn't have the same problem that you had.
But the episode is purely dark. There's nothing but terrible decisions militarily. Named characters have a Warhammer-esque plot armor that is outrageous.
But you're conflating two things. What I'm saying is we need to remain fair to the show.
No, but it didn't even look good. It didn't even look good. No. I'm not giving you that.
It might not have looked as good, but I'm wary of us ending up hyperbolic. That's all. I have not as many problems with The Long Night as you do.
Okay, but maybe you and I disagree on this, but I think I'm in the majority here.
I think you are in the majority.
This TV show is way too dark, or that episode is way too dark.
I wouldn't for a moment suggest you're not in the majority, but I did not have the problems with the visuals that other people had. I just didn't, and I don't understand. Because I didn't have them, I don't get that bit of the criticism.
Yeah, just because you've got like 60-20 eyesight, you know?
I mean, that's an objectively true fact, I do.
It's all right for some.
Yeah, you've never seen me in glasses, have you?
No, I have not, no. Okay, but that aside, right, so I get what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
The issue is, I think a lot of that sort of stunning visual spectacle that was pervasive throughout Game of Thrones also suffered.
It's there in a couple of places. It is there in a couple of places.
It's there, and a lot of it's focused on the dragons, but I think that's actually part of the problem. In that, you know, throughout the entire show, dragons and magic and all this were sort of... How do I put this? It wasn't the be all and end all.
They were secondary.
Yeah.
Although the actor who played Barristan Selmy has famously gone on record because he spoiled his own character's death apparently at a panel show, which probably upset people
about it.
probably because he was
And rightly
bitter
so.
about it, and rightly so. But a lot of people apparently complained about the fact that he'd spoiled it, and he went, "It's just a television show about tits and dragons. Calm down," which I quite liked as a let's all just calm down a little bit.
It's annoying because he's not wrong, but he's also wrong.
He's missing. I think the problem is it became worse when that became true.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. Yeah,
He went at the point at which his character was taken out of the show. That was true, and that was on its way down, and that's the problem. But these are all problems. These are all problems.
Yeah.
And this isn't fixing. So
no. But okay, I mean, how do you want to tackle this? Because I think we can all agree, right? Anyone listening, if you are listening to this and you think season 8 of Game of Thrones was fantastic, come chat to us and explain why, please. Show you're working. It's very important.
I think we're at the stage where if you can put together a coherent explanation as to why it was good, we'll get you on the podcast.
Pretty much at this point, yes.
Get yourself in front of a microphone, get yourself on Discord, we'll have a chat with you. Not live, because we don't do this live, but like we'll record it and put it out for people to hear. Because I don't think it's... Even I can't make the case that it's good, and I can make just about any case you want.
I mean, badly, but yes.
Badly, but, I can. And the problem that I have with it, and this is just me harping on about problems rather than fixing them, is there are moments still in season 8 that I think are good.
That's interesting.
Night of the whole second episode, Night of the Seven Kingdoms, I'd say don't touch it. That's a perfect episode. It's not. That's very strong. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but that's a fantastic episode, particularly in the context of the dross that is season 8. There are tweaks I would make, but the bad stuff is so... It looms so large, it's hard to see past.
That episode is annoying to me, because I sort of think you're right. Because it sets up so much greatness, and then the rest of the season shits on it.
The fundamental problem with that episode is it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
A Night of the Seven Kingdoms
so do so many
happens.
things in this show.
No,
Okay, but let's roll back. So how are we going to... How do you think we should approach a fix?
I think you suggested looking at character arcs, and I originally thought that was a strange way of looking at it, and instead we'd be better off going episode by episode. But I don't think we would. I think character arcs is the right way to do it, because
It's interesting you say that.
We're
Sorry,
not
go on.
writers. We're not
Yeah.
writers. We don't have time. We haven't sat down and written out these arcs for people and then worked out how they sit together in episodes, which is what you should do, I think. So instead, if we go character by character and get stuck at character number 2 and argue about them for the rest of the episode, then people can piece them together as episodes in their own heads, if that makes sense. Rather than saying episode 1 ends like this and then it leads you into episode 2. That's not our
I think that's really interesting, because actually I think that's where D&D went wrong.
You think they went episode by episode?
I think they went episode by episode. I think they had an end point, which I think at this point is known, right? As in, I think George R. R. Martin told them this is how things will roughly end up. So they knew that's where they had to get. And let's not forget, right? They originally had an extra season and then decided they'd rather go and work for Disney.
Which
And
then
it's
didn't
hard to
happen.
blame for them, blame them for that rather.
I
But
think
that's the point, right? I think they sort of said, here's an end point. This is where we have to get to. And then they approached it episode by episode.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Did it really badly wrong.
I think that's absolutely right. And I think I think we need to keep in mind the endpoints that they gave us, and I think we have to try and stay true to those to a greater or lesser extent.
I mean, I don't know if you know this. I don't know if we know this, but yeah, I mean, if we knew exactly what endpoints George R. R. Martin had in mind, that would help.
So he told them a few. I don't know what those. I think he told them
that's the
three
thing. I think,
things.
like the Danny thing, yes. I think that we can all agree on.
I think Danny and Bran were probably.
Bran to what point?
Oh, this is the thing, and I think this is where we need to start being specific. And you and I have had this conversation before about Bran as well. I think Bran as king is the way the books are going. I don't think Bran as king on the Iron Throne in King's Landing with a small council, as if he's just Robert's heir, is where the books are going. And I think
Agreed.
the putting Bran on the Iron Throne is fine, but you have to do a lot more work to explain why Bran is on the Iron Throne.
Yeah,
and
agreed.
not have this sort of impassive, completely lacking in any kind of emotion character having Tyrion advocate for him with a sort of who has the best story, Bran the Broken, which is just not supported by anything that we've seen in the show so far. And it's no disrespect to Isaac Hempstead Wright. Like, I'm sure he was acting the way he was directed to act, but it lands so badly. And there's one line that Bran gives, I think it's in the last episode, where they're talking about making him king, and someone says, will you even do it? And Bran says, why do you think I'm here? And are you still there?
Yes.
Oh, okay. They could have done so much more with why do you think I'm here? But I don't know.
It's just shit.
It's fundamentally
you make
just
a good
shit.
point. I think I want to direct no negativity towards the actors, because I genuinely don't think that they were the problem at all.
No, nor do I.
They didn't fundamentally change from all throughout the seasons. In terms of their sort of, some of the actors got older. Fair enough.
Yeah.
But I don't think that they were the issue by any means, or at least not more so an issue in season 8 than they were in season 1. Right? If you had a bad actor in season 1, they were still a bad actor in season 8. I would say.
No, I mean, I still have my hang-ups about some of the actors, but fundamentally, yes, the actors didn't change, and on the whole, it was a good cast with some standouts. But it's direction and it's writing that are the problems.
And this is the biggest problem we would actually have to fix in all this, right? Is that the depth of the characters, that they spend so much time with. It's what the entirety of A Song of Ice and Fire is about, right? It's individual characters and who they are and how they interact with the rest of the world. And they set it up so well for 5 seasons. And then they didn't know how to actually write characters anymore. And that's the real problem, right?
That is fundamentally the problem.
So again, if we roll back to it, we're saying that we sort of know what certain endpoints are. So why don't we start with Dany, right?
Yes,
Daenerys
that's a good
Targaryen.
idea.
Because I think a prevailing theory, and I guess we'll need George R. R. Martin to confirm at some point himself, that Daenerys probably would go the way of the Mad King.
I'm personally all in on the Mad Queen Dany theory.
Yeah, you are. Yeah, I'm more on the fence. I think it could work that way. It could work the other way. I just don't get the same sense of that in the books that you do, I think, which is fine.
No, and the problem with the character in the books is that she's so much younger than the character on screen for a whole bunch of very understandable reasons.
And the thing, in my head, the way I think it could work is that she's young, she's potentially somewhat naive, and I think she just wants to be seen as a good person. I mean, that sounds maybe a bit bland.
She has an enormous sort of savior/messiah complex, which they did start to go into in the film, in the TV show to an extent. But what they didn't do, and this is all going to come back to, they didn't have enough time. But what we didn't do is we didn't spend enough time with Dani after all of these people that she has had around her and has been relying on start to die. And everyone that she's getting close to keeps dying, keeps leaving her, keeps betraying her, and her circle of trusted people is just getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And then we end up in a situation where essentially her circle of trusted people is Jon, Missandei, and Tyrion, because she's only got Drogon left because 2 of her dragons have died, which we do need to come back to as well. And she doesn't 100% trust Jon because she knows about Jon's parentage, and everyone likes Jon more than they like her. And she doesn't entirely trust Tyrion because Tyrion's a Lannister, and Jaime's already left to go back to Cersei. So what's keeping Tyrion on her side? And he's always whispering, and he's Varysing around, and he's always trying to guide her and tell her. And so the only person she has is Missandei, and Missandei's her entire support structure for this woman who has had an incredibly abused life. And then Missandei's beheaded in front of her, and she just snaps. And people don't just snap, I get that, but you know what, we didn't spend enough
I largely
time
agree with
on
you.
her paranoia and her fall.
I'd go even further because I think you're including Jon in this, and I already don't buy the whole Jon-Dany relationship. I think that's just fumbled way too hard.
I mean, that was screen eye candy. That's all that was.
It's exactly all that was. And I mean, I get it, right? They're Targaryens, and I think you could have made that work, but it's just sort of like, oh, here's 2 characters we've never met before. Oh, yeah, they're going to fuck.
Absolutely, just going to bang on a boat.
Just, okay, sure, whatever.
So that we can do a cut scene between Sam learning about Jon's parentage and Jon getting his rocks off with his aunt.
Because this is all a show about, tits and dragons, as you said.
Yeah.
And this is what we have to do. But no, I sort of agree with you. In my head, Dany snapping would happen if the sort of last trusted character she has left is Drogon, or all her dragons, whatever the case may be. Because I think the Mad Queen Dany theory makes sense, because she really wants to affect change. And it only works if she gets frustrated by the fact that people seem to not want to change.
Why don't people just understand what I'm trying to do?
Exactly. And then, as you say, so the last... I think Missandei is actually maybe a good character, and, her head gets chopped off and Dany just snaps. I would potentially buy that. And they set it up in the fucking TV show. But then Cersei surrenders the city.
The bells,
and she still snaps.
But there was such this emphasis on, we've never had bells as a sign of surrender ever before, and then all of a sudden you've got Tyrion saying to her, if they ring the bells, you mustn't strike, you mustn't do this, and then they ring the bells, and then she burns the whole city down. And it just doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. It would have made sense is they chop Missandei's head off, and then she mounts Drogon and just goes to town. Like that, I would have got, and that would have still shown us that she was a bit mad, right? And we would have been okay with that.
you could have it almost with, like, so she chops Missandei's head gets chopped off, and Dany runs for Drogon, and Jon and Tyrion both try and stop her, and she's just screaming at both of them, and they're trying to calm her down, and she's inconsolable, and in her grief and in her rage, all she sees Jon and Tyrion doing are 2 people who are getting in the way of what she's trying to do.
Yeah.
So these, they're almost people that she could build a new support structure around, but they're not there for her, because the only people that they're thinking about in this moment is everyone else. They're not talking about what she needs. They're talking about what they need and what everyone else needs. And so
Yeah.
I think you can do Mad Queen Dany, but you have to do it from the perspective of a young woman who was abused by her brother, who's to betrayal, and then Jorah betrays her. He's an almost father figure who's not really a father figure, but she sees him that way, and then it goes all weird. So she sends him away, and then he comes back, and then he dies, and she has her dragons, who are her children, who die, and you can do it. That's the thing that really frustrates me. You can do it. You just have to take the time over it.
Yeah, and they didn't.
And they didn't.
And they didn't. I think the one... I mean, maybe disagree, but I feel like the one scene where they were like, oh, yeah, no, Dany's actually kind of mad, is when she burnt Dickon, lol, and Randall.
No, I agree. I think that's a perfect scene. Because that gives you the sort of brittle edges of Dany's character.
But it isn't, though. It doesn't work. Because in season 1, episode 1, we have Ned Stark cut the head off someone who is, in his eyes, disobeyed the law. Right? And then fast forward to when Dany burns Dickon and Randall Tarly, because in her eyes, they've disobeyed her law. And Ned makes a big song and dance of like, oh, well, you got to swing the sword. We have to keep people to account, hold people to account. And then
That's
somehow
really
when Dany does it, everyone's like, oh, that was fucking daft. It's like, but why? It's the same fucking principle. And yes, she uses
really
dragon
interesting,
fire. Is that better or worse than chopping someone's head off? I don't know.
So I think the problem with dragon fire is that it's so reminiscent of her father. But no one makes that.
I get that, and that's what they're trying to show you. But the point is that she's actually not done anything that I would consider crazy.
No, I've never thought about it that way, because I think that my instinct is that the burning of Rickon and
Dickon and Randall,
Dickon and Randall Tarly is really good. But you're kind of absolutely right. They're prisoners of war who effectively refuse to surrender, and refuse to bend the knee. So I mean, that's what. I mean, maybe you should say that she should offer them the wall. But there isn't really a tradition of the wall in the Reach.
But I don't think it's a stretch to sort of say, oh, maybe off screen she did and whatnot, because Randall Tarly's a proud man.
If it's not on screen, it doesn't happen.
But it's effectively just an execution of someone, and we've seen that countless times in this show, right? It's part of the land.
Yeah, I think the dragon fire is a problem, but I think if you're going to make... You've turned me around on this. I think if you're going to make the dragon fire a problem, you have to be more explicit as to the optics of it, and it's the optics that are the problem.
Yeah.
You need Tyrion to say, I get it. They should die. They probably need to die, but you cannot burn them. Because that's what your father did.
Exactly. That or you actually have them bend a knee or something, and then she still does it, right? Something like that. But the way it actually plays out in the show, it's like, well, that's just fair game. Like we've been told from the very first episode of the show that's fair game.
Because I'd never drawn that I'd never drawn that connection. Sorry, between Ned and Dany there, but you're kind of absolutely right. There's an argument that Ned's is different because it's the Night's Watch, and everyone knows that that's the sanction for leaving the Night's Watch. But conversely, everyone knows that the sanction for treason is death, and from Dany's perspective, they've committed treason.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've sold me.
Nice. That's a win. I'll take that. But so yeah, Mad Queen Dany is a problem.
But it's a fixable problem if you take the time to build the psychosis, which is not the right word. But
so I guess the question then is, if you just write season 8 from the perspective of you're going to make the Mad Queen Dany thing believable, and you make the Jon Dany dilemma more believable,
you
fix it?
So we're gonna come on to Jon in a minute, I think, but you fixate massively on Jon and Jon's heritage, and you need to build the relationship between Jon and Dany before either of them find out, and then you need Jon to find out about his heritage well before Dany does and not tell her. And then you need, in, for example, Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, you need Jon to be seen as the hope and the hero, even though Dany's the one with the army and the dragons, because Jon is the one that people are rallying behind. And Dany sees that, and she sees Jon as a threat to what she considers her birthright. And then we need to talk about the Night King. But if, for example, you have Jon kill the Night King, which I think you could do, then you need like Jon to be being the one celebrated as the victor and all of that, even if it turns out that actually the only way that Jon was able to kill the Night King was because of Dany or whatever, it's Drogon that slays the Ice Dragon. Any of these things, all the credit goes to Jon. And Jon doesn't want it, and privately Jon is saying to Dany, he can keep doing the I don't want it type thing, but he's not doing enough of that in public. Maybe as a way you do it.
I sort of agree with you. I think there's a scenario where your average Westerosi could sort of see Jon and Dany both being the quote-unquote good guy.
And then, yeah.
And then the Dany snap, I think, would be much more meaningful and impactful. Yeah. And then Jon having to sort of deal with that. And then because, of course, that's such a horrible thing to have done, he has to retreat to the wall. He may or may not have done that anyway. But I think I could
Jon
buy.
At the wall makes sense. I don't think Jon joining the wildlings makes sense. I think Jon goes back to the wall.
I mean, they robbed
Jon brother.
They robbed Jon's character of any kind, of identity after he and Dany got it on.
They did.
Honestly.
He became a sword-wielding plot device.
Yeah, essentially, yeah. But so does this bring us on to what is arguably the biggest problem in the whole show, which is Cersei?
I hate that Cersei ends up the big bad.
Yeah, because it doesn't work. She isn't the big bad. She's not big bad material.
Is the ordering wrong? Should they have fixed the Cersei problem first? And then the Night King is the big... I don't know, because I don't actually know the story that George Martin is writing. We've had this argument before. Is the argument when the Night Walkers come calling, it doesn't matter who sits the throne? Or is it actually the throne is what matters, and the Night Walkers are an existential threat that you need the right person sitting in the throne to deal with? I don't know.
Well, except that the way season 8 went is that whoever was on the throne didn't matter. And neither did the
White Walkers,
right? Because they, as I was saying to you before we started recording, it's like the Night King and the White Walkers generally are the Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Yeah, they are.
Right? Everything that happened would have happened regardless, because for some reason, and this is one of the reasons I hate Winterfell, as I said before, like every major character in that fight has just got massive plot armor. Like no one's died. But Jorah had to die.
The only person that dies is Jorah.
Everybody else is absolutely fine, even though they have absolutely no right to be fine. And then somehow it all just works out, and they still have a large enough force to march south on.
So do you know who I think should have died at Winterfell? Other than like everyone, specifically, either Jaime or Brienne needs to die. And I think actually Jaime needs to die.
I think Jaime or Brienne or Bran.
I don't think Bran can die because I think you need Bran on the throne at the end. But that's a me thing. Bran dying as bait, I could see.
But Bran dying is because that just wraps up the whole point.
It makes the three-eyed raven go away, which I kind of want.
It makes the three-eyed raven go away, but it also makes the Night King's motivation go away.
This is part of the problem. I don't understand what the Night King was after. Bran tells us that what he wanted was Bran, but I don't. The Whites, the White Walkers, and the Whites, in Game of Thrones becomes so confusing, kind of in a way that they're not in the books. Because they clearly want something, but I don't know what. It's never explained what they want, but not in a mysterious way, just in an irritating way.
Yeah, you do sort of wonder if they win the Battle of Winterfell, what would they do?
Oh, can I have a specific complaint about the hiding in the crypts?
Yeah, go on, yeah.
I mean, it's just that. I mean, you know that they can raise the dead.
Oh, yeah.
So the only way that, and this would be, I think, too corny, but the only way that you can make the hiding in the crypt work is if you have the dead Starks break free of their crypts in the way that they do in the show, but then for some reason, and I don't know what, some old spells that are written on the crypt or whatever, they go to war against the Whites.
Yeah, because they're the Starks, and
because they're the Starks, and winter is
they're
coming.
the first men, yeah,
exactly. But I don't know how you make that work in the show without really like telling us that.
Yeah, no, I agree. That would have been cool. But this is, I mean, even Peter Dinklage said, right? Like, it's like, oh yeah, Tyrion
wouldn't
hide
have
in the
done
crypts, and it turns out Tyrion's not that smart. It's like, yeah, absolutely right.
Yeah.
So no, I'm with you on that. I'm with you on that entirely. I think Cersei's the problem.
I think she's a massive problem, and
because she cannot be, as you said, she cannot be the big bad. I don't buy it.
I don't understand where her power comes from. It was
Yeah.
really good. It was really good. You remember the scene that she has with Littlefinger, where Littlefinger goes, "Oh, knowledge is power," and then Cersei's response is, "Power is power." That's really good. And her power comes from her name, her heritage, her husband, her father, her son. But all of those things are taken from her by the end. Her beauty. All of those things are taken from her by the end, by season 8. And yet she's still got about 1 million fucking soldiers. Why?
Yeah.
Why are those men willing to stand on a field and get burned by dragons? What are they doing it for?
That's because Sir Jaime and Sir Bronn of the Blackwater are leading them. Yay.
But
no, I'm with you. And as a slight aside, because that reminded me when you said her beauty, one of the things that really bothered me about season 8, and it might have been before then, but the costumes got so caricatured.
Yeah, Cersei wears black all the time.
Yeah, it's just... And Sansa as well looks like some sort of weird dominatrix. It's weird. I don't know. That's all odd.
There's a lot of... No, you're right. There's a lot of chains in Sansa's attire in the later seasons, which is really weird.
It's very odd.
And this is a very minor nitpick, but it's very odd given the last scene that we have of Sansa in the Eyrie, when she wears like an adult dress rather than a kid's dress, and she has this like crescendo of music as she comes down the stairs, and we're meant to think, oh, she's worked out where her levers of power are now. She understands the game that Littlefinger's been trying to teach her, and then she just ends up. It looks like a Mord Sith out of the Sword of Truth books.
Yeah.
I don't get it. What?
No, it's all very odd. It's very odd. But so back to Cersei, right? So actually, I've just developed an idea. So I think you have to have Cersei being a minor obstacle. Because I agree. In fact, when Dany rocks at the King's Landing, she should have already been deposed, right? Because time and time again, we've seen that the people actually kind of matter.
Yes,
right? And
absolutely.
Cersei was famously disgraced. She marched through the city naked with a woman shouting "shame, shame, shame" behind her, right? Like that. People remember.
Yeah,
People already know that she was not a good person.
Yeah,
and then she very obviously blows up the fucking sept.
Yeah,
right. There's no way that people will stand for that. She's done at that point. Has to be done.
100%.
You have to get rid of her. And you might even introduce that storyline that people were a fan of, and I could maybe see where Jaime actually goes and rids us of that problem, because Jamie needs to move on, and that's where that character was headed until they
I
fucked
can't
that.
work out what to do with Jamie.
No, me neither. But what I think could work for the sort of Mad Queen Dany thing again is actually if she takes King's Landing, you know, and she wants to do the whole let's break the wheel thing, because that was her trope in the show, certainly.
Yeah.
And then somebody as sensible as Jon, someone she respects and loves, goes, actually, no, I think we need the wheel. And that's the sort of thing that could lead to a snap. I sort of might buy that a bit more. And then Jon kills her. That sort of thing works. But the fact that Cersei's the big antagonist that causes it just does not track.
I think Qyburn should have removed Cersei.
Okay. Interesting.
It's a thought that I've only just had, and it's not well formed, so you feel free to pick it apart. But the idea that I was having is Qyburn essentially views Cersei as a useful idiot. Right? Cersei's utility is in her protection of Qyburn to enable him to do his mad science experiments. The moment Cersei stops doing that, she stops being useful to Qyburn. So you have the walk of shame, you have Cersei getting more and more unhinged, and it culminates in the destruction of the Sept. And then she gives an order to Qyburn, and Qyburn's just like, no, I'm sorry, you're not I don't work for you anymore. And she's like, well, I am the queen, blah, blah, blah. She does all of that. And Qyburn says, queen of what? Where are your subjects? Where are your soldiers? Where is your power? And Cersei looks around and she realizes that the only people in the room are her, Qyburn, and Gregor Strong.
Yeah.
Or the Mountain. And she tells the Mountain to kill Qyburn, and he just doesn't move. And she says, you know, what is this? And Qyburn says, it was never you. It was never about you. You were always a bit part. You were always there. You were always just useful to me. And you're not useful anymore. And then he leaves the room and we never see what happens to Cersei. And then I don't know what you do with King's Landing. I don't know whether this kind of only works if you have an egg in it, or Fagon, or whatever, young Griff, so that you can have someone take King's Landing for Dany to take. But I suppose you don't need that. You could just have Dany welcomed into King's Landing.
Yeah, Qyburn has to almost be an agent for somebody else, because I wouldn't buy him being in it for himself.
I think he's just a mad scientist I think he's just a mad scientist who wants to be left alone.
No, you just think that because he was great in Andor, he should be great in Game of Thrones.
This is nothing to do with the fact that he's an outstanding actor.
It's absolutely got everything to do with that.
No.
Qyburn is not a main feature in any way, shape, or form.
But that's almost the point. And this might only work if you've read the books, but Cersei views him as a tool, but actually he's the one using Cersei, and Cersei's just not as smart as she thinks she is.
But that's Cersei's whole deal. She thinks she's the smart one, and she never is.
But that's my point. And so actually she keeps thinking that she's being the smart one and destroying the Sept, because who cares what the Faith say? And then you could have Qyburn, you could have someone else, you could have Kevin, except Kevin's dead. You could have someone explain to her how stupid everything that she's done has been.
But
you armed this Faith, and then the Faith arrested you. How did you not see that coming?
You don't think that... Yeah, go on.
You almost put it right plain in front of her by someone who's been by her side. So that's why I think Qyburn. And maybe
I think Jamie. I think Jamie was set up to do that. And I think when Jamie does it, I think he, because you might argue that he's sort of a good guy all along. I don't really know how I necessarily feel about that, but you could essentially have him do exactly what you're saying, and then offer Cersei a choice, and then when she doesn't take it because she thinks she's actually in control, you know, everybody's actually done with her.
I don't think Jamie can kill Cersei.
No, I'm not saying. I'm not saying he would kill Cersei. I just think at that point he would walk out, and then Cersei would have to take him. 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 And then Ce and then I don't know, someone at the mountain kills her. Dany comes in with Drogon, kills her, whatever. The point is, I think Cersei ultimately deserves, in Season 8, for it to be impactful, a completely mundane death, which they sort of tried to give her by just burying her in rubble, but it almost needed to be more mundane.
Is what I've suggested not a mundane death?
Yeah, but it is. But I don't see the need for Qyburn.
Qyburn was a suggestion simply because by the end of Season 8, he's the only one standing by her side.
Yeah. No, I mean, no, I get that, but I think actually you could get Jaime to do it.
I think you could
because they sort of make him go back to King's Landing. But I think if you reframe that by saying he went back to King's Landing to I don't know, rub it in her face essentially that she was wrong, and he then leaves the Sept or what? Obviously not the Sept, the keep or the throne room or whatever, just before Dany burns it down.
Okay, so how about we do this? You keep Jaime and Brienne in Night of the Seven Kingdoms exactly the same, up to and including Jaime knighting Brienne. You don't have them sleep together because I fucking hated that.
That was so dumb, unnecessary.
It was. You can't knight someone and then immediately have them have extramarital sex. It's so stupid. I'm sorry. It was infuriating.
So I didn't want to mention before, but yeah, that episode is not perfect.
No, that episode is not perfect. It's just so much better than the shit around it. I'm getting angry. You do that, and then Brienne dies protecting Jaime in the long night, and Jaime's last words to her are "die a night" or something better, because you could probably pay people to actually write for this show as opposed to whatever D&D did. And then Jaime takes it upon himself, and he talks to Tyrion, and he takes it upon himself to go to King's Landing to end the war because he thinks he's the only one who can, because he's the only one who can talk to Cersei. And that's how you get Jaime there. And Jaime's whole thing is, I've watched people that I care about die.
Yeah.
This war will consume you. It will consume me. It will consume this city. Just come away with me. He basically makes the same offer that Kristen Cole makes to Rhaenyra in House of the Dragon. Just come away with me. Just come to the Free Cities. Leave this. Or alternatively, Cersei makes that offer to him. It's like, we'll run away together, and he decides that that's not right for him. I don't really care which way you spin Jaime's character, but they end up fundamentally opposed on what the right thing to do is, basically. Because I want Jaime to be Lord Commander at the end, I think, but a horribly penitent, emotionally distraught, almost torn apart by guilt Jaime, who thinks he got Brienne killed and can't live with it. I don't know. I just like
I like where you're going with a lot of this, and again, to sort of use a if we can agree that Jaime, I think fundamentally is a fairly selfless character who's been.
I think he's a man on a journey.
He's a man on a journey, but he slew the king for all the right reasons.
Yeah, but then he threw Bran out a window, and it's really important we never forget that.
Yeah, but if we sort of use a potentially very semantic argument, right? Because he says, the things I do for love. You could ostensibly say he's doing that for Cersei.
I think the only way you possibly make that redeemable is you say he's doing it for his sons and daughter. I don't, but
potentially, regardless, you could spin that as being a somewhat selfless act. I mean, he's dumb as shit, but it's somewhat selfless. And I think throughout the show, he matures, right, and his selflessness becomes much more palatable. But again, then we reach season 8, and yeah, exactly. He knights Brienne and then immediately steals her honor from her.
Yeah,
and then becomes a massive simp again for the things he should have left behind, and becomes a selfish prick. It just what
the problem is, episode 2 Jaime and episode 5 Jaime are just different characters.
Yeah,
they're just completely different.
That's what happens when the writers don't watch their own material.
I think you're
Or read the
right.
material.
Or like fundamentally different people wrote each episode, which probably is true. But the guy who knights Brienne at the end of season 8, episode 2, is not the guy who says to Tyrion, "I never really cared for the people anyway." That doesn't
make sense.
That's
doesn't make
not
sense.
the character you established. Qyburn asks Jaime, "How many people have you saved, my lord?" And Jaime says, "About 1 million, the population of King's Landing." And yes, of course, part of Jaime's character is keeping score and bigging himself up about that, but also part of his character is thinking that that was the right thing to do.
Yeah. Then there's so many things wrong. I mean, they rob Jaime of his sword hand, right? And it's the right call because it takes away his biggest weapon.
Yes.
Because you're meant to then start seeing Jaime for what he is beyond that.
Yes.
And we develop his character that way. And then how does he fucking, like, kind of die? Like, fucking dueling... who's it he fights at the end?
Euron.
Yeah, he fucking beats Euron. Like, what the hell?
But then also
why?
I don't really want to spend much time on Euron, because the way that you fix Euron is by having Euron from the books, and that's it.
Honestly, in the TV show, you don't do Euron at all.
I think that's right. I think that if you want to have that character, you make it Victarion, not Euron.
And also you introduced him way earlier, not just some like odd quasi comic relief swashbuckling Johnny Depp character. Like,
well, that's exactly who he's playing. He's playing Johnny Depp playing an Ironborn, and it's so bad. It's so bad.
Yeah,
specifically because it's Euron. I think that could have been Harry Harding from the Golden Company.
It could have been literally anybody. It didn't need to be that, especially because his whole thing is that he ends up killing a dragon, and that seems to only be because Dany's seemingly forgotten about his fleet. Like, it's just the whole thing's dumb.
Dany should lose her. I don't know. I don't really care what happens to Rhaegal, to be honest with you.
But the whole thing's dumb, right? You don't need Euron. I think Euron. It's a fucking disgrace what they did to Euron Greyjoy.
I agree.
The only sensible Greyjoy, or not sensible, the only interesting Greyjoy.
Give me my pirate wizard.
Yeah, that would have been so much cooler.
Give me my Thulu pirate wizard, or don't call him Euron.
He's your solution to the Cersei problem in many ways, because he could have just strolled in as an almost unknown and been like, "Yeah, you've never mattered, Cersei. I'm a pirate wizard."
Yes, that's a way to do it. Euron is the one sitting on the Iron Throne when Dany comes a knocking, and Euron has sacrificed Cersei to raise a kraken. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's already way better.
There you go. I've fixed it.
Okay, so you have Euron, but you introduce him literally just at the very end as just some random character who turns out to be a pirate wizard.
You have him as a reaver. You have him as essentially an extraneous character culling device. So he still kills the sand snakes, for example, because they were annoying.
Well, yeah, they were just a problem way before.
You have him taking people out of commission or whatever. And then, he just strolls in at the end of season 7 and he's like, "This is my fucking chair now." And Cersei tries to stop him and he just cuts her throat. He just, like, out of nowhere, he just completely unbothered. And then he, like, wargs into Gregor Clegane's body or something. I don't know.
No, but I think that's it. And actually, I think if you, I mean, it comes back. If you fix the Cersei problem, I think you fixed 90% of what's wrong.
There's a big,
and the other 8% is essentially the Dany thing, and you just make it more believable.
Yeah,
and then you're kind of there. So let's talk about the Starks, because I guess that's a group we haven't really touched on aside from Jon, whom you just need to give his character back because it was such a strong character, and then they just robbed him of it when he saw Dany.
Or
because hot blonde, and so you just forget you have brain cells apparently.
Or what you do is you have Jon be gutted. You have his entire character stripped away after he comes back from the dead. And that's
that could
the
also
plot
work.
point.
Yeah, that could
Right?
also work.
If you want to make him this sort of wooden semi-automaton type character, lean into it by his resurrection. But then he's not allowed to have sex.
Well, but you could use his heritage against him, right? If you're Dany, you could say, well, actually, this guy's a Targaryen. I'm a Targaryen. We're back, lads. This is like the old days. You know, when things were stable in the realm.
Yeah, that's true.
2 Targaryens, and then, yeah, if Jon's essentially just an empty puppet, that could work. I wouldn't mind that.
That's potentially an option. And then you have Bran. Here's how you give Bran some agency. You have Bran working to find the bits of Jon that are in...
Oh, yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
In Ghost or something. That's what... Most of Jon's personality wargs into Ghost, right? And then Melisandre brings back Jon's body, but the bits of Jon can't get in the body because they're stuck in Ghost. So Bran needs to use the Winterfell heart tree to get the bits of Jon that are in Jon's wolf into Jon's body to properly bring Jon back. And that's why everyone needs to protect the heart tree. But the only people who know that are Sansa and Arya and Bran, and everyone, they lie to everyone else and say that the heart tree is central to humanity or whatever, and they bring Jon back that way. But maybe Bran dies in the process. Maybe the Night King kills Bran, and then resurrected Jon kills the Night King. But also Rhaegal dies, killing Ice Viserion, and then Jon tells Dany that that's what they were doing. And Dany's massively conflicted because she likes Jon. Jon is her nephew and all of this, but also he's the reason her dragon's dead. And we've just created more character. You've created more conflict. You've created more opportunities for people to emote. And also more explanation for why things are going on.
Yeah, I don't hate that.
It's very high magic.
I think simpler solution is, yeah, you install Jon as a puppet king to Dany when she's like, oh, the Targaryens have brought stability.
Yeah.
And then Bran unmasks the fact that he is effectively empty, restores his person to him. He then says, fuck you, Dany, kills her, in shame goes to the wall. And Bran is like, you see how fucked up this whole situation of government is? Maybe we should do something else. And then people elect him to be king. Boom, sorted.
That's also good, and it's less complicated than mine.
Less complicated for sure. I mean, yours had a lot of intrigue and, emotion. Mine is a bit more practical.
Yours was a lot more practical than mine.
And Bran also, importantly, doesn't die and becomes the king in the end. So,
Bran doesn't die and becomes the king. Bran dying was just a little, little cherry for people who don't like Bran.
Yeah, no, fair. But as much as I like to wind you up about it, I think the sort of Bran being the ultimate quote-unquote hero is not wrong, necessarily. Can we just quickly fix Sansa while we're here?
I don't think we've got the time.
Well, Sansa in the show is, it's fucked up to say the trauma you suffered is the thing that makes you stronger, right? Just as a baseline, let's just establish that.
That is fucking terrible. Don't put that in your show.
Don't put that in your show.
Especially, all trauma's awful. The trauma that Sansa suffered was unbelievably awful.
Yeah, just dreadful. Like,
don't do that.
They did a disservice not just to that character, but to just humankind.
Yeah, that was so shitty.
Terrible. And also the other thing is, why did she tell everybody the secret that was so massive?
She was really not meant to tell. And then you have Arya saying, she's the smartest person I know. Really?
I mean, Arya went the way of Jon, where they just essentially robbed her of all essence, and she just became a weird killing machine that everybody was supposed to be okay with.
Yeah.
The issue I have with Arya, right, is that so much of the story throughout is that if you are out to seek revenge, shit goes wrong for you. Except if you're Arya Stark for some reason, because you just do nothing but revenge and you're absolutely fine. You get to sail into the West and explore. It's just, what? Why?
Yeah, no, it's really, really weird, isn't it? Robert's Rebellion is driven by Robert's desire for revenge on Rhaegar, and it absolutely ruins Robert's life. But it's fine if you're Arya. It's a terrible fucking message.
Yeah, Arya is a real problem.
And
I
also,
don't really get. I mean, I don't know in the books where her character would end up, but part of me sort of thought that she was because the House of
Black and White.
Thank you. I was like, the House of Hope. That's not right. The House of Black and White. Because she's sort of done with all that by the end of it, right? That's sort of the feeling that I was left with. And you're like, okay, maybe Arya's now out to find something new in her life and move on. And it may very well be that she gets written out the story the same way I think that Sandor Clegane might well be in George R. R. Martin's books, right? Because he's done. He's just like, fuck this.
He's done. He's the gravedigger on the Quiet Isle. Yeah. Leave him alone.
And I think George Martin has the sense to just be like, well, these characters, that's life, right? Arya Stark may just be like, you know what?
But
I'm okay to just be here in Essos and live an interesting life. Or maybe she does go back to Westeros and just help out where she needs to help out. But she's learned that it's not about revenge. And
she becomes a genuine faceless man.
All that, yeah.
As opposed to this weird sort of hybrid ninja that we end up with, which doesn't make any sense and doesn't align in any way at all with what we see Jack and Hagar do. The whole point of a faceless man is that you don't know it was a faceless man.
Yeah, exactly. And also that their point is that they're not like they're not known for like prowess in one-to-one combat, and yet somehow Arya's been like the best swords person in all of Westeros all of a sudden.
Arya goes one-to-one with Brienne in a training duel, and it's a draw. And I'm just like, that's not.
It's not how that would work. Like Jack and Hagar, I guess we'd never see it, but I doubt he would just engage in one-on-one combat because that's also not what he's meant to be doing.
No, Jack and Hagar wouldn't fight Brienne. If Jack and Hagar had to kill Brienne, then
she'd be dead.
Poison, or she'd fall, but you wouldn't know it was him. That's the whole point of the faceless. Anyway,
yeah. So I mean, I don't think people like Arya and Sansa are the real problems in season 8. I think you can kind of rescue them with some minor tweaks.
I think that's right. I know we've run over the hour mark, but I want to talk about Clegane Bowl. Just you've written it here in our notes.
Unnecessary. I hate it.
But I think, and almost this comes down to the Night King problem as well. A big part of a lot of what George Martin has written is that history is not decided by a one-on-one battle between two knights or whatever. Sometimes it is. Sometimes that's what turns the dial. But more often than not, that's just not the way the world works. Like, Maegor the Cruel isn't slain in a one-on-one duel. Maegor the Cruel is killed sitting on the Iron Throne and no one knows how he dies. Daemon and Aemond Targaryen kill each other above the God's Eye. Daemon Blackfyre is slain by arrows. Like, that's the way George Martin's world works. Yeah. You've got Ned, you've got Rhaegar and Robert at the Trident. They fight and Robert kills Rhaegar, but it's not a glorious battle. Robert caves Rhaegar's breastplate in, and the rich rubies that make up the dragon on his chest float away, and Rhaegar drowns in his own blood. You've got Ned at the Tower of Joy with his 7 men who go up against the 3 Kingsguard, and we don't know what happened, but all we know is that only 2 men walk away from that. That's the world that George Martin built. Clegane Bowl goes entirely against all of that.
Yep. I think the way you do Sandor Clegane is one of your favourites, which is a post-credit scene. Right, where he's sat somewhere, digging a grave, having a little rest, having some ale, and receives news of what happened in King's Landing. One of those bits of news is that Gregor Clegane is dead, and he just smiles. That's all you need there. You don't need.
But it's
Clegane
not a
Bowl.
happy smile. It's a weight being lifted smile.
Yeah, we had Clegane Bowl in season 1.
Yes,
it's over, people. We know.
Sorry, I just didn't want to miss out on my opportunity to rant about Cocaine Ball because
you're right to do so.
Chatting about it for ages, and it always made me angry because it's just so thematically wrong.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right to do so. I think. Right, can we think of any character in season 8 that wouldn't need any changing? Just to wrap it up.
Ed Muratali needs no changing.
Well, Ed Muratali was ruined in season 2, 3. Whenever he was first introduced. Sit Down Uncle ruined Ed Muratali.
But my point is the Ed Muratali. So I love that from Ed Muir. Just by the by, I love that they're at a great council talking about who should be king, and this guy who was just not involved in the season at all, but who actually is the best person to rule, goes, it maybe should be me. Like, I'm the only person here who's old enough to actually have experience ruling and was raised to be the heir of a great house.
Yeah, except that you can't do that to Ed Muratali in the show because
he's an absolute fucking joke.
Yeah.
But no, Sit Down Uncle was egregious, and I'm not generally in favour of violence against women, but it would have been okay for someone to throw something at Sansa at that point.
Yeah.
Who else?
But also, doesn't what does Rob say to Ed Muir? Isn't it also Sit Down Uncle?
Oh, it probably no.
Or Shut Up Uncle. So like also something equally like and Rob Stark I think was a very good character in the TV show, but the way they treated Ed Muir from the very beginning was outrageous.
But it almost works from Rob because Rob is an impetuous youth who is winning every battle.
Yes,
and thinks he's on top of the world and doesn't quite. It's not right, but I sort of get it more from Rob.
Maybe.
Sit Down Uncle from Sansa, who's done nothing except sit in a crypt and whine and nearly get everyone fucking killed all the time, and probably did get her father killed, is just really irritating.
Maybe. Yeah, I mean, it's a different debate.
It is a different debate.
I mean, Ed Muratali in the books is quite important and not incompetent. Yeah. And the Riverlands are really important to Rob's war. And I think Rob is smart enough to know that. But yeah, no, you're right. So okay,
we've barely mentioned Tyrion.
Yeah, I confess I'd forgotten about Tyrion, and I think the issue with Tyrion is that his character died in season 6. Probably.
That's probably true, isn't it?
Like his whole trip to Daenerys in the TV show killed his character. At that point, he was pointless, honestly. Because what does he actually achieve in the last 2 seasons?
He brings Dany to Westeros.
Great. She was doing that anyway.
But he makes it actually happen. He gets Varys killed. He fails to save anyone he tries to save, and then he gets Bran elected king.
Yay. Yeah, go Tyrion. Woo. I don't know. I think Tyrion almost warrants his own episode because you're meant to think that he's like the bee's knees.
Tyrion's character is so complicated in the books as well. And I think the problem is the show, for a whole bunch of very understandable reasons, completely whitewashes Tyrion's character.
Yeah.
And I think that ends up making his character in season 6, 7, and 8 really weak because it doesn't have any of the hard edges that the character in the books has. I think you're right. I think we need to do a separate episode on Tyrion.
Yeah, because in the show, I think when Tyrion kills Tywin, that all the urgency is gone from his character, and they didn't know what to do with him.
I think that's right.
Whereas I suspect that he then actually goes on a crusade to quote unquote save the world, but also his desire to save his brother should have been bigged up a bit.
Yeah, I think that's right.
And given that, as we've said, Jaime's character was so poorly handled, I think Tyrion doesn't come out of that very well either.
I think that's true. I think you're almost fighting. Tyrion is fighting with the problems in Jaime's character.
Yeah. So we might revisit Tyrion generally.
I think
we've agreed that Jorah had a great arc in season 8 because he got to die very early on.
Yeah, Jorah dying is fine. We have a similar problem with Tyrion in that Jorah is played by stupid, sexy Ian Glenn, and doesn't really look like Book Jorah, and so we don't really get the creep of Book Jorah. But
yeah,
it's kind of fine.
So Sam and/or Grey Worm.
I don't care about them. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I think you're not.
Grey
wrong.
Worm's not a character; he's a plot device. And
which also doesn't work, in fairness, because
Sam's
somehow he's like, "Hey, John, you killed my queen. It's all good.
I'm going to go to the land of the poisonous butterflies. It's fine." But you definitely have to go and do the thing that you said you would do, and no one's going to stay in check. But you better do it, John. Yeah, I don't know. And Sam's just an exposition vehicle in season 8, but Sam's kind of an exposition vehicle since about season 3.
So there isn't a single character that's actually done what we wanted in season 8.
I think the only character who you can probably make that case for is Jorah.
Yeah, on account of him dying so early on, yeah.
On account of him dying halfway through.
But actually, I think Jorah's story arc is as intended.
I think that's right. I think that's probably true. I just have... I don't think Jorah is not a good person, and it's almost Ian Glenn's characterization of Jorah makes him more sympathetic than he should be.
Yeah, in many ways he was a miscast, right?
He's a massive miscast, I think.
Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed it. Ian Glenn does a fantastic job, but
I think
it's not who I would have cast.
He's well cast for the role he ends up playing.
Yeah, that's fair, yeah.
But I think the role in the books is much more powerful if, one, the age gap is much more obvious, and also he's less sexy Ian Glenn, which is not my phrase. Someone on a podcast I listened to referred to him as stupid, sexy Ian Glenn, ruining Jorah's character, ruining how creepy Jorah should be, and I can't refer to him any other way now.
Well, maybe on stupid, sexy Ian Glenn, we can we can end with the sizzle. Yeah, we'll revisit maybe some of these character arcs in more detail. I'm glad you came around to my character arc POV.
Yeah, no, I think
that's how George Martin wrote the books, right? So
yes, I think it's a good way to do it. I have come round to your structure an hour and 12 minutes into the recording.
No, this is a huge win for me. I mean, I got you to see the Ned cutting a head off in season 1 thing as well. So yeah,
no, that was good. I didn't see that coming at all.
This is a massive win. So on that note, thank you so much for listening to this episode of Expertise is Overrated. No doubt we've said some things that were either objectively wrong or downright offensive. As ever, feel free to let us know. Rate the podcast wherever you can. Check out our Patreon for bonus content and come chat to us on our Discord.
If you're lucky, we might just argue with you in one of our upcoming episodes. And if you're really lucky, we might call you an idiot. Come back next time for some more absolute nonsense.